Welcome to Pumpkin Spice Podcast. It's a seasonal artisanal treat for fans of horror films. I'm Rob Schulte.
I'm Brittany. Hi.
Brittany, I've got a very special episode for you, for the audience, for Clive, and for those who didn't want to go see Midsommar.
Like me.
Yes. But first, because it comes up and I had to bleep out a long, winding excuse for why you didn't see the movie, just tell me flat out. You can say it. You don't have to lie. Why didn't you see Midsommar?
I mean, well, I get scared.
And this wasn't on the list. We have an approved list of the movies that we will watch.
That's right.
Both of us have to agree to them.
That's right. Well, I mean, it just wasn't on the table for me.
And is it because it took place in Sweden?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you know?
Could it be that you could imagine yourself as the lead character in this movie? Because that would make me not go to it.
Every character in any movie, I can imagine myself being that person.
Well, then I had a buddy of ours, Tim Barnes.
Tim! Sorry.
It's okay. Stand-up comic. All around great human being. Joined me just to talk about the film because we felt feelings after seeing it. Mm-hmm. And you gave permission.
I sure
did. Because we needed permission.
Oh, was it just oh yeah, totally, go for it. I think that's literally what I said.
You were like, you know what, Rob? I've had my own terrifying experience this week. I don't need to have another because you agreed to tell me about something that happened to you the other day that you posted about online but left a big mystery.
Yeah, well, this is the time for me to tell my story. So it all started...
Please do.
Last Saturday, I was at the Beetlejuice themed bar, pop-up bar in Los Angeles. It is called...
Sounds disgusting.
Yeah, it's called Beetle House LA. They didn't pay me any money. I just was letting people know in case they were wondering. And, you go into the first room. It's supposed to be set up like a speakeasy. The lady's like, you're dead. So, deal with it. No, she's like,
here's your number.
Right. This is purgatory. She's like, in order to get into the bar, someone's going to have to tell me a name and we're going to chant it. And that's going to open the doors. So she turns to me because I'm always the person, right?
Oh, yes, of course.
There's no chance.
And if it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, exactly. She turns, and you weren't there. So she turned to me and she said, what's your favorite horror movie villain?
At a Beetlejuice bar.
At a Beetlejuice bar.
Not a horror movie bar. A Beetlejuice bar.
A Beetlejuice bar. And I was like, oh, we had just recorded our Chucky episode. So I said Chucky.
Why not? The movie's coming out. It's a hot moment.
Oh, yeah. Hashtag child's play. I said Chucky. She says, okay. Wow. Interesting. She's like, everybody chant Chucky and the doors will open. So we did. I love a good chant.
Also, why not chant Beetlejuice?
I have no idea. I think they were just...
What?
Dude, I don't know.
Were they bored?
Well, I don't know. I didn't ask him. It was kind of, it's weird because, then you walk in and then there's a giant Jack Skellington head. And it's
what?
It was dumb because it's really a Tim Burton themed bar. But for some reason they wanted to pitch it as you know what I mean? Because if they had said it was Tim Burton bar, I would have been like, okay, this makes sense. But.
Or it would have been like, oh, is it all Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Dumbo and Big Fish?
Big Fish, yeah, definitely Big Fish, Edward Scissorhands. But my friend and I were just kind of like, oh, okay, it's like that. Cool. After this drink, let's get the fuck out of here. No, I'm just kidding. but then we're like, let's swing by the bathroom, right? Because we got to check our makeup or something.
Oh, yeah, got to do all those Beetlejuice drugs.
I got to pee in the toilet. Take that out. And as we were coming out of the bathroom, someone said, down that hall, go down that hall. Chucky's down that hall. And we thought it was some weird
Wait,
gag.
I've got a question.
What?
Real quick.
What?
So you say, the way I imagine this, you just are coming out of a, relatively private area if you're going to a bathroom. And so right as you come out of the bathroom, there's just some dude standing there going hey, go down that hallway.
Well, now that you mention it.
Excuse me, my hands aren't even dry.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I'm like, that was not a safe move for me. I don't even know. It wasn't a safe move for me, but for different reasons. It's just weird because I was like, oh, okay, be right back. Sure, stranger.
It's not every day someone tells me where to go.
Yeah, exactly. So my friend and I thought it was some gag, like they remembered who it was that I said when we opened the doors. And we were like, what a weird, lazy gag. But we go down the hallway and lo and behold, it's Chucky. It was
like
Chucky.
A Chucky doll is there?
No, it was
Oh my God, so it was like a human being. Dressed
being.
up as Chucky.
Dressed up as Chucky, carrying a knife. And like, I actually have video footage. I personally took footage, but then my friend was right behind me and I didn't know, but she was taking a video too. So we have two of the exact same accounts of the event, but just one from my perspective and then one from her perspective, seeing me be scared. I'm like running out of the bar screaming. I'm like, we need to get the fuck out of here.
She got the react-vid.
Yes. And it was terrifying, but also exhilarating.
Here's a question. Well, you answered my question. It was exhilarating.
Well, I was going to ask if it was exhilarating, and
Did you ask for your money back? Because it doesn't seem like there was any Beetlejuice at all.
It's really weird. It was so strange. I don't understand it.
Is this the same people who did Saved by the Max?
No, absolutely not. I hear that that is legit.
No, yeah, I hear that one is fantastic. And they're opening I want to say a Dawson's Creek one, but I don't think it's Dawson's Creek. Yeah. Well, what would they do? Open up the SS Ice House?
Yes, the ISIS Ice House.
Yeah. We'll talk about more of that on the Tiny TV episode or something.
Sure.
So tune in over there. But without any further ado, Brittany, we should probably get to Tim and I's talk about Midsommar.
Tim talk.
Sorry about the Chucky situation.
No, it was worth it. Oh my God, I'm so scared. I didn't even know that this was happening. Hold on.
Shut up, right, I knew it. I fucking knew it. Gotta get the fuck out of here now.
Welcome to Pumpkin Spice Podcast. This is a bonus episode because we just saw Midsommar. And when I say we, I mean me, Rob Schulte, and my wonderful guest,
Tim Barnes. That's me.
We're working with one mic today, so if anyone hears me pull it away from your face, that's why. I would like to give you some credentials, just so that people know who Tim Barnes is, although they probably should already. You work for Comedy Central. You had an amazing podcast, still do, and live show called It's All True.
Well, yeah, sort of. You can listen to old episodes. Maybe one day.
It exists.
It exists. One day it'll come back in all its glory.
Some people put a period at the end of the sentence. You've put an ellipses.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that I'm missing? You got art school. You're a stand-up comic.
I write for Comedy Central, and I'm just a nice guy.
And we both are neighbors, and we saw Midsommar, and Brittany said, I'm not going to see that movie. And I said, well, I think I'm going to talk to Tim about it then.
Wait, your co-host for your horror movie podcast refuses to see Midsommar? By the way, what is the proper way to say the name of this movie?
I say Midsommar.
Midsommar. Okay.
Just because it's spelled that way.
I've heard so many different ways of pronouncing this throughout the weeks.
We should probably just start calling it Midsommar.
Yeah. Midsommar. Did you see Midsommar?
Yeah. The people give us a little bit more credit, think we know what we're talking about. You're actually more of a film buff than I am. I do it for fun, but you studied film, correct?
I did, yeah. Briefly at Santa Barbara City College, I went through a film studies phase. I used to want to be a filmmaker before I got into stand-up, and I think I still at some point want to. But yeah, I love movies. I love the mise en scene of Midsommar, and I think movies are great. And I totally. Can't you tell the confidence in how I'm talking right now?
I can. Yeah. I also did a couple of film classes, but not nearly like that. I've never written or been behind the camera. I like to learn, and Clive likes to eat. We will be hearing Clive in the background today. He's very excited. I'm home from work. I think we should dive right in.
I told you that I want to go to that festival in Sweden.
No, you said it would be cool to go.
Yeah, and then I got the opportunity and I decided
Look, I
to
don't
do
mind
it.
you going. I just wish you would have told me. That's all.
Dude, she needs a therapist. You've been wanting out of this stupid relationship for like a year now.
And don't forget about all of the beautiful Swedish women you'll meet in June.
Okay, guys.
That's not her again. Seriously?
Babe, what's happening? Danny.
I was so very sorry to hear about what happened.
I'm sorry.
I invited Danny to come to Sweden. You know what she's been going through.
Christian says you've got this special week planned.
It's sort of a crazy festival. Special ceremonies and dressing up.
That sounds fun.
Unbelievable.
Welcome and happy Midsummer. Skål!
What time is it?
9 p.m.
That can't be right. The sky is blue.
This is what 9 p.m. is like here.
How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like another world.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Is it scary?
What is it?
It has special properties.
What am I going through?
We just need to acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate. I want to go.
Absolutely not.
What's happening? I don't know why you invited us.
That's why you look so guilty right now, because you know.
We only do this every 90 years. I was most excited for you to come.
What was your lasting image from the movie? Like, what really was like, I'm coming back and I'm talking about this movie and I'm starting with this?
I think really seeing, and this is a spoiler episode, right? Seeing the image of a man's body who's still awake inside of a bear was very striking to me. That is something where I don't even know what it means, but I feel like it means something. Just seeing a guy who's like barely alive inside of a bear as a building's burning around him really hit me in a weird way. Sometimes I feel like I am stuck inside of a bear, and that's not just the way people will classify me in a gay club, you know?
I completely understand. But also, just to add to the man inside of a bear, a scene is in the movie just before it that is not needed, but I'm so glad it's there. It's the old man teaching the young students, the young people of the village, how to actually cut open a bear and take, I guess, an autopsy. I don't want to take all of the organs out of a bear.
Some of us dissect frogs in elementary school here in Sweden, in Midsommar. You cut open a bear and stick a living human in it. What I didn't understand is, like, do they do that? They must do that every time.
Yeah, but okay, here's the bigger thing. I'm hoping that since this is a spoiler episode, we don't have to, like, tell everyone exactly what happens in the movie. Because, Pell, Wilhelm Blomgren says that they do this every 90 years. But Midsommar is once a year, and it feels like the village would die out. So maybe the 90 years is just a ploy, a lie.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe they classify time in a different way there.
It does feel like an area that exists outside of the realm of time, for sure.
If I could save time in a bottle.
Any sort of ritual like that, like putting a man in a bear, not just in a bear outfit, is always just so striking to me in like cult horror sort of movies, because you could essentially say, like, how do we take nature and then make it more fucked up than nature actually is? At the very beginning of the movie, when you first meet Danny, did you notice, and this is a bigger through line through the movie, but like the art that's on the walls? She had a big painting of some sort on her wall in her dorm room or wherever she was living that was a giant bear, like over a tiny girl it looked like a young woman in the corner, like a kid. Take that what you will. Is it like her, everything around her attacking her, and she's stuck in this corner, and then the bear is burned at the end and she's free? Seems a little on the nose, but definitely if you wouldn't have seen that picture, you wouldn't have thought anything like that.
I wouldn't have noticed it until you told me. That's amazing.
Well, did you notice anything else on walls? Or like, I guess there's the one tapestry that comes in.
Looks like a weird comic strip I might have drawn in middle school.
It's like R. Crumb almost.
Yeah, that was very shocking. It seemed to be just about a couple, and I remember seeing a young woman on the tapestry cutting her pubic hair, and then the only other image I remember is like the woman with this sort of acid eyes.
Oh, yeah. And then there's the one of her actually menstruating into a mug.
Yes. How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
If she is menstruating into that mug in that comic strip, does that mean that in that drink that they give the boyfriend that there might be some...
That is exactly what's going on. They're not too shy about it, but if you don't make that connection... everyone has what looks like lemonade, and one person has ocean spray. I don't know.
Oh, so we got the pubic hair and the pie and menstrual blood all in the same go.
It's a classy dish for a classy man.
Something that truly felt surreal to me in the experience of watching this was the moment where all the women are dancing around that pole, and this wasn't a strip club if you haven't seen the movie, and a lot of the women have gone away out of the competition, and then all of a sudden Danny starts speaking their language, and it was this sort of euphoria, and I was like, I can imagine myself somehow in a moment like that of suddenly speaking a language I can never speak before. It was really effective in a strange way.
It's almost like you could see it coming, but you didn't know what it was, like that moment. And like articulating it through language, especially with the drugs happening, was like really great. But here's a question. What language would you be speaking? Because I would probably find myself in an area where it's just like Pig Latin or something, because that's like what my brain could pick up on. This language.
You know, I'd like to say French, but most likely Ebonics. You know, if I could get good at that, that would be great. Especially as a black person, if you can't tell, it would be really cool if I learned how to speak, street language.
I thought you were going to go with some sort of weird Star Wars language, because they don't seem to have any sort of boundaries.
Yeah, they don't seem to have any logic except for the broken English that the Gungans speak, which is,
This sounds weird. I'm a big fan of cults, you know. But I movements, religions, things like that. It's always piqued my interest. I'm a big fan of the podcast Oh No, Ross and Carrie. They show up so you don't have to. That's their tagline. And I've seen one of the hosts talking a lot about Midsommar, and then I was like, well, of course, like people who are into cults and stuff would like this. And then I started remembering that like there's all that breathing in the movie, like the. And you see characters doing that either in preparation for something or in the moment because they're excited. Yeah. But like, I don't know if you know this, so sorry if I'm telling you something you know already, or same to you, audience. But that is something that a lot of movements or groups like to do for essentially like tripping. But it's also used as a form of control sometimes, because if everyone's doing the same thing, you start having like a hive mind mentality. And I'm probably not getting all of the facts straight here, but that motif going through the whole thing, that was one of the first things that led me to believe, besides the trailers, that this was a sinister group.
Oh, yes. Well, it's interesting. The things that you point out that remind you of cults remind me of improv.
Oh, yeah. So like, see, where they're breathing, we're doing zip zaps up.
I was like, I've interacted with some improv people, and I've been in a couple improv classes where I had to back out because I was afraid they're going to stuff me into a bear.
It's like, well, first just mime each other and we'll play mirror. Now, Tim, I'm going to put on a bear costume. You also put on this real bear.
I can totally see there being an activity where everyone just cries at the same time, or like, mimics pain at the same time.
I actually have been in those theater classes. Not something that I thought of. So that is wild, and I'm going to have to talk to my therapist after this. No, but also in addition to that sort of cult-like behavior, did you notice anything about the food? Because obviously I have a thought here, but I wanted to know if you noticed anything on that.
No, I don't. I feel like I have no recollection of what they were making, and they even show the kitchen. And I don't know what kind of pie that was. Was it meat pie or something?
We know what type of pie that was. And maybe I'll edit this out. Pie. Okay, so a lot of things is food deprivation or like gruel-esque type food. Like food you don't really want to eat, but it's like full of carbohydrates or something that like fills you up but like makes you tired. And there's Mark, Will Poultier. Midsommar? Mark, the Mark character, more than once, I believe, was just like, all the food is disgusting. Or like, I haven't been able to eat anything. Another way to like program people into just falling in line and... Oh man, this is turning into the Joe Rogan podcast.
Well, have you experimented with drugs? Watching this movie, it was something where I haven't taken acid or done mushrooms, and because I'm afraid of myself.
That's why I don't do them anymore.
But it seemed very effective. Like I feel like clearly the director has experimented with drugs, and I was like convinced that this is like pretty authentic to what those experiences are. Is that true?
In my experience, yes. Yes and no. Sorry, only because like visually, yes, in certain areas, like when you would see those flowers bloom or like apparently there are faces in the background sometimes in the sky of like Danny's family. I read some people said they saw that like after she's May Queen, I believe. But also the giddiness, at the beginning is a very true statement when Mark's kind of like freaking out and he's like, no more people, stuff like that. Also, one of the first times I had ever allegedly done mushrooms, I really wanted to go off on my own. Like I did not want to be with the group and I was just like, no, I'm going. Danny had much more tragic reasons. But I obviously, I think they said psilocybin, so that would be mushrooms, and it can be made into a tea. Obviously, they say they're eating mushrooms at the very beginning. And I feel like, especially when the dude is clapped in the face, that is definitely a faux pas, or if you're trying to do something to someone. So, accurate.
I was talking to someone who said that the breathing of like, there was a point where like all the plants and things seemed like they had these they're all already organic, but everything around them seemed to be sort of breathing on their own.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that. Like I remember one time I was like looking at a carpet and similar visuals were happening. But also, like I would always explain it to people as if things looked like a painting, like an oil painting, which I also feel was accurately represented in a lot of those scenes. So, but it's however you describe that, like not quite real look, but also like fun and beautiful. Yeah. The one thing I didn't really get, I guess maybe, especially in the scene you were talking about where she starts speaking the language, a lot of times people get real emotional, like happy emotional. Yes. And like, oh, the sunset's so beautiful. Like, I'm so glad I've made it another day. Everything's connected on the earth. And I'm wondering if some of the heightened emotion points were heightened even more because of that. But really, everything seems so raw. Like when they're all breathing together and screaming after she sees her boyfriend cheat on her, that didn't feel like drugs were involved at all. That felt like, this fucking sucks and I need all of these people to feel what I'm feeling, which is something I want to talk about later, but we should probably talk about that other scene. What do you have to say?
I was going to say that scene where they're all kind of crying together felt, that didn't freak me out, That felt like, it's weird, but I kind of would want that maybe at some point in my life. It's strange.
Yeah, it felt healthy. Yeah. The same way when like, the old couple jumped off the cliff or when the people were burning alive, everyone was like emoting the emotions that the other person was feeling. Real group mentality, but also like it didn't feel like anyone in Danny's life actually wanted to come together, didn't want to heal together. And we could go a little bit deeper into that, but this was the sort of thing of Danny finding like, oh, these people have empathy, even if it's a little fucked up.
What's the probability that Midsommar is an allegory for Burning Man?
I would say it's probably more of... I have no idea. But I do think this movie coming out now when in my opinion, festival culture is on the decline, really kind of holds a mirror up to like, this is the extreme of Fire Festival. Oh, we need to get our things less corporate, more organic. We're going to this like small festival. There's not even any music except for like a lute.
I don't know why you invited us.
What did you think about that sex scene? And maybe would you mind setting the scene a little bit for our listeners? Because maybe there are people, well, we do have listeners on this show that will not see horror movies, but will listen to the show because it's the only way to like digest the medium. But if you would paint me a picture with those psilocybin mushrooms.
So Danny's boyfriend, what's the boyfriend's name?
Boyfriend's name is Christian, played by Jack Renner.
And what an interesting, that name Christian, I bet that has something to do with everything too. Because his character seems so Puritan in a strange way, where when his friends go missing, he's like, I'm so sorry, I'd have no idea what, like he feels like he really, in a weird way, he feels like he really wants to be on board with this cult.
Yeah, almost, but like he always feels like he has something else under there, which we learn like he wants to write his paper or he doesn't want to be with Danny. But like he also finds himself pulled in.
Yeah. So he wants to break up with Danny, and this young woman in the cult has her eyes set on him. And throughout the movie, she's like setting up these sort of things to make him fall in love. And then they give him some weird drink, and he's going on this really bad trip. And then she kind of lures him into this room where she's surrounded by a bunch of the other women in the cult, and her mom is also there. And she's lying down on her back, and they force Christian to enter, and then all the women witness him make love to this young woman.
This newly able to make love, or I guess they're a very like breed, people.
Creepily sweet in a weird way, but also incredibly funny. One of the biggest laughs is when the mom kind of cradles, and when I saw the movie, the mom kind of cradles the daughter while she's having sex and kind of looks her in the eye and sings to her while her daughter is having, it was a lot of taboos being broken there.
And everyone is naked. Yes. Like, we are very highbrow here at Pumpkin Spice Podcast, but like no matter what, Christian is not the best human being in the world. And when he goes in there, like, even him being freaked out, it's not even because he's just staring at a room full of naked people and like a cornucopia. But it is like for the audience, you were like, this is a moment. Yeah. This is a scene for the group. Yeah. Like it is for us too, but it's like, this is something way more important than we had even imagined. Yeah. I have a theory about that scene that we mentioned before recording, but got to get it in. Because I've yet to hear anyone talk about this on, any of these social networks of choice. They say that their oracle, who is a mentally handicapped, well, just a handicapped person in general, they're deformed, they've got mental cognition problems. They say that they have an oracle because they don't have the blocks of everyday human life. And so they like, I'm getting to somewhere, audience, I promise. So they'll like paint weird finger paints on a thing, and then other humans will interpret what that means for their living doctrine. And this is where they live, where this sex party is happening. And they're in the room laying down, watching it happen. These oracles are a product of inbreeding. And maybe it's just because the woman and Christian have red hair, but I'm wondering if somehow they're related, because it can be inbreeding and like be generations and like DNA apart. It may not be disfiguring, but they don't really, there's no real evidence that I saw connecting except for like hair color.
That never crossed my mind, but it was interesting how they talked about how they would do deliberate inbreeding and then sort of selective, like bringing someone from outside of the group to which is obviously what happened to Christian. I don't know how the math on that works with this society they have, but
every 90 years. So, well, and it's what Pell's doing for Danny. Yeah. And another thing I hadn't really noticed was that when Pell gives Danny that drawing he did of her before they go there, there's like a signature in the bottom corner, but it's runic. It's supposed to, it's from Pell. He's foreign. But then when they're doing that dance where she learns the language, those two symbols are on her dress.
Pell cast a spell on Danny. One more thing about this sort of sex scene is that it was another example of the group mentality, because not only does this group mimic pain, but they also mimic orgasmic sounds.
Which is what tips Danny off before she has her scream session where they're mimicking pain.
Yeah. And I don't remember how the song, they're all like sort of singing a song while they're having sex. And then once she starts moaning, they moan in return. It was almost like whale sounds.
It was. That makes me think of Carl Sagan. Did you notice though that Pell had said to Christian, like, think of all the Swedish women you will impregnate. Yeah. Not many, just one. And then, because I feel like that's the first one that you can be like, oh, he said that, then he did that. But then there was also, Pell was like, no, Danny, I know how you're feeling. Your parents died. My parents also died in a tragic fire. Yeah. Or he didn't say tragic. Yeah. He just says died in a fire. Yeah. So his parents had to have been a couple of people that sacrificed themselves as well.
I also want to talk about the racial dynamic here.
Please do, Tim.
They clearly never breed with people of color, so it seems to me that they just kind of bring a bunch of people of color and kill them every 90 years or whenever this happens. It seems like there was no intention of keeping the people of color, and there's no people of color in the cult.
From our point of view, that would be, all right, these are just characters, like tools that's just brought in to like, okay, we need people to die here, here, and here. And I feel like that's like the 80s trope of horror movies, right? Is like the black guy dies first or whatever. But that seemed to be changing, but it seems to be the thing in this one. And I know people aren't all like praising this movie, but I don't think it was necessarily that intentional. But it does seem like, well, it's very easy if these people aren't breeding with any people of color that, okay, here's our next tentpole of the story.
Yeah, it didn't bother me, but it seems like after watching the movie, like that is like a fact about this group of people, which doesn't seem unrealistic to me. I totally believe there's a group of Swedish people a cult of Swedish people who want to stay whatever they are.
I can only imagine what the population is like in that area of Sweden anyway. Okay, before we end, Tim, we should probably talk about how we just watched the trailer again before recording this. The long one that gives you like a 30-second trailer, then another A24 logo, and then like a 4-minute trailer. Never seen this before, but that's what happens. And we noticed in both of those little snippets...
Well, there's a moment, and I remember before I saw the movie, every time I saw the trailer, this moment stuck out to me. I was like, this is why I want to see this movie. You sort of see these feet that are planted on the ground, and then they quickly levitate. And it freaked me out every time I saw the trailer, and I don't think I saw it in the movie.
I cannot remember it, and it could be as easy as a scene where they're lifting Danny up to put her in a chair or something, but it looks like it's inside of that oracle hut. So like it looks like it would be related to the sex scene.
Maybe it's even just lifting Christian up to put him inside the bear. Maybe it was so subtle in the movie and for a different practical reason that it didn't stick out the same way it did in the trailer, but just an image of feet suddenly levitating is frightening.
Yeah, I don't like David Blaine either. The moment you said that to me, and then the moment it came on the trailer, I was like, yeah, well, this is the cow from Twister. Listeners, if you know and are screaming at your devices right now, please let us know. Use the hashtag Pink Jeans. This is Pumpkin Spice Podcast. I want to take a little moment here, Tim, to let everyone know that they can join our Patreon page. We do bonus episodes, and it helps us, keep this show going. We're seasonal shows, Tim. You need a little bit of financial backing, or you don't get these fancy Midsommar episodes. All right, we're about to close up. like I said earlier, not everyone loved this movie. I don't think you can really argue that it wasn't shot beautifully or competently at that. I think it was an incredible follow-up to Hereditary. Did you see Hereditary?
I have not seen Hereditary. Maybe I'll see it this weekend.
I am really excited to hear your thoughts on that, seeing it this before that. Every director has their weird thing.
Maybe. Nothing seemed out of place. It seemed like the shocking moments happened because they wanted us to reach a state of total shock. And you're talking about a cult. So, yeah, nothing felt strange. I do think the marketing of this movie was perfect. And the only other movie I can think of that made me, a horror movie that made me want to go see it the instant it came out was Get Out. And I don't know what it is about the marketing of both of those, but they just like worked in this sort of like zeitgeisty, a subtle zeitgeisty way. Yeah.
Each one is zeitgeisty for their own zeitgeisty reasons, too. Tim Barnes, thanks for being on the show. Love it whenever you come over to my house and hang out with me for a little while. Is there anything you'd like to plug at this moment?
Yes, I co-host a show called Art School at Union Hall. The next edition of it is going to be at Union Hall at 8 p.m. on July 28th, which is a Sunday, I believe, and it's at 8 p.m. We've got the rapper Fat Tony, comedian Ava Victor, and a bunch of other people, including me.
I'll be there. Won't you join me? And follow Tim Barnes on Twitter, timbarnes451. And why is that?
Because that's the temperature at which jokes burn.
This has been Pumpkin Spice Podcast. Thank you to Jeremy Siegel, who wrote our theme music. Catch us this fall. We'll have a new season for you. See y'all later. Bye.
I was most excited for you to come.